My name is Thomas Meleia. I'm currently the Washington director for PEN America, the writers' organization.
How has Russian propaganda changed over the years?
Well, I think Russian officials have said very publicly that information warfare is now part of their way of confronting the United States and the Western democratic world. I think Russian strategy and policy was more, first of all, it used to be more inward-looking. They were trying to rebuild after the collapse of the Soviet Union. I think in the last 10 years or so that it's become much more outward-looking, pushing out false narratives and trying to confuse public opinion in Western countries, including the United States, trying to disrupt our own elections and our political discourse. It's become much more a feature of their foreign policy.
How successful is the fight against Russian propaganda?
Well, you have to begin with how successful is Russian propaganda. So RT and Radio Sputnik, I think, are not very effective at all. I don't think they have very much audience, and most people watch it for amusement. What's potentially more influential and therefore more dangerous is the more subtle kinds of circulation of misinformation through social media. We saw a little bit of that in our 2016 elections. I think that's now being refined, and I think we're going to see much more of that this year and next year coming at us. And because that's targeted and disguised, it's harder to combat. It's harder to push back against. And it's more persuasive because it's not seen as a foreign government's media outlet. It's disguised as friends and neighbors. It's disguised as Americans.
Other ways, through, for example, literature or art.
That's a good question. I don't know that I've seen personally examples of the creative arts being used in a way that would be pushing anti-democratic or messages.
What happens when the government is not part of combating Russian propaganda and disinformation?
It's all the more important for independent voices, for individual writers and journalists and artists to speak up and do what they want to do, speak their mind, make their opinions clear. And it's also important for civil society organizations to be raising their voices and being active in educating the public in the schools, outside the schools, to be getting outside of Tbilisi and into the regions.
Do you think there are other solutions that we don't talk about, like regulations, for example?
Some countries have tried to restrict the ability of Russian television to broadcast and Russian radio. I'm not sure that really solves the problem. I think the real battle is being waged on the internet right now. I think the answer is to go to the audiences and sort of give them a more rounded view. Telling truth, I think, is much more important than trying to silence disinformation, because different people have different ideas on what the disinformation is, especially when you let governments do that. And I'm always worried that governments will close down the rest of us too.